The depths of Yunnan Mountain, the sound of the sound is like a knife, scraping the cliffs of Tianjue Valley, bringing a biting chill. I stood on a large rock at the entrance of the valley, looking far away at the winding mountain path, and I couldn't say whether I was nervous or expecting it. The 10-year Heroes Conference officially kicked off today. All the heroes from all over the country gathered here for fame, profit, and for those grievances that are unclear. I, Lin Xiaoran, have only one purpose: to find the enemy who slaughtered me that year, and use this sword to return to justice. I lowered my head and looked at the long sword at my waist. The sheath was a little old and the edges were white, but the blade inside was so sharp that it could cut the iron like mud. This is the only thing my father left to me and the only support I have relied on over the years. From the day my family was destroyed, I vowed to let this sword drink the blood of my enemies, even if I take my life. But the water in the rivers and lakes is too deep. How easy is it for me, a 20-year-old boy, to find a thread at this hero conference? Not to mention that I have to hide my identity and cannot make people realize that I am the last blood of the Lin family. Hey, little brother, why do you feel stupid when you stand here? If you don't keep going, your reputation will not be yours. A rough voice came from behind, breaking my thoughts. When I looked back, I saw a burly big man with a face full of beards and a pair of iron fists on my shoulders. I looked like I was not a good person to mess with. He grinned, revealing several big yellow teeth. His language was quite hot. My name is Duan Wuya. I came from the North Earth Fist Gate. It was the first time I came to Tianjue Valley this time. Where are you? I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect that this person was so familiar. However, when he saw his eyes clear, he should not be a bad person, so I replied, my name is Lin Xiaoran. I am a casual cultivator. There is no sect, but I just come to make a lot of fun. I deliberately obsessed with my real name. After all, Lin Xiaoran's name might cause unnecessary trouble. Landam cultivator? Ah, that's not easy. This hero conference is not something you can play. 9 out of 10 people are famous for their wealth, and the remaining one is mostly for revenge. You look so light that you are young, but you can't help but lose your life. Duan Wenya patted my shoulder, and the strength was so strong that I almost stood up. I smiled reluctantly, my heart was tight. What he said casually touched my mind. Revenge is indeed the only reason I come here. But I couldn't show any trace, so I put on the dress and heard nothing. Thank you, brother, I'm here to see you, and I don't plan to really get rid of the big guys. Duan Wuya laughed and didn't say much, but just asked me to walk to the bottom of the valley. The land of Tianjue Valley is extremely narrow. The mountain road can only be passed by 2 people on their shoulders. The 2 sides are thousands of feet deep and purified. If you are not careful, you will be crushed to pieces. I followed Duan Wuya down, listening to his reputation as a blow to the North Earth Fist door along the way, and how he broke a 1,000-pound huge rock with one punch. Although I heard it, I thought this person was quite interesting. At least he was much stronger than those who were full of the eccentrics of martial arts and stabbed the knife in his back. After most of the time, I finally reached the bottom. I suddenly opened my eyes. A huge flat ground was surrounded by mountains. A tall ring was set up in the center, with various flags and the names of major sections. There was a tight atmosphere in the air. Often, martial arts people came in groups of 3 or 5, some were whispering, some were wiping weapons, and several young people were trying, their eyes full of desire for glory. I'm coming very early, and the first game is not enough. Duan Wuya pointed to a table next to the ring. Several old men in blue shirts were holding the names of the participants. Little brother, do you want to try it? I see that the sword on your waist is not like ordinary goods, and I might be able to kill a name. I felt a little moved, and it was true that the first game of the heroes was a good opportunity. Not only could I understand the details of various masters, but I might also lead to some traces of that year. So I clicked ahead and walked to the table to register. The old men glanced at me, with a little disdain in their eyes. I guess I felt that I was too young and had no real skills. But they didn't say much, just wrote the 2 words Lin Xiaoran on the book and gave me a wooden sign with my number engraved on it. The first game is divided into 10 groups, each group takes the top 3 and enters the next round. The competition is not limited to weapons, but no action is allowed. The offender will be cancelled. One of the old men said coldly. His temperament seemed to be memorizing a book, and it seems that he has said it countless times. I took the wooden sign and stepped aside. Duan Wuya also reported it and came to tell me, we have good luck and are divided into different groups. If we can reach double levels, we may be able to fight on our shoulders. Haha. I smiled, but didn't answer, and my eyes swept towards the crowd around the ring. Are there any enemies among these people who participated in the slaughter that year? Or, is anyone aware of the incident that year? My hands were pressed on the handle without thinking, and the murder in my heart flashed. At this moment, a crisp sound came up, and the atmosphere on the ring became even more intense. A middle-aged man in a white robe walked onto the stage, holding a long sword in his hand, and was extremely energetic. He cleared his throat and said loudly, "Heroes, welcome to Tianjue Valley to participate in this decade-long martial arts event Heroes Conference. I am the host of this conference, Zhang Chan Lao of the Yunhua School. Today is the first day. I hope you can show your head as much as possible and add another legend to the world." There was a thunderous sound in the audience. I was not very happy to hear these scenes. My eyes came back in the crowd, and tried to find some suspicious faces. Unfortunately, there are too many people coming here, and the costumes from different sects are mixed together, and it is hard to tell who is. Just as I was a little disappointed, the video was suddenly attracted by a figure. It was a woman wearing a light blue dress, with a string of small silver tiles hanging around her waist, making a crisp sound when she walked. Her face was covered with a thin layer of slimness, and she couldn't see her true face clearly, but her eyes were so bright that it could see through people's hearts. She stood by the crowd, not seemingly planning to register for the competition, but just watched everything around her quietly. I don't know why, but I always feel that her temperament is a bit special, as if she is incompatible with this noisy martial arts competition. "Hey, little brother, what are you looking at? Your eyes are straight." Duan Wenya's voice sounded in my ears again, and he talked with a few points. When I came back to my senses, I coughed twice in embarrassment. "It's nothing, I just take a look at it." "Ha, don't be embarrassed. There are many beauties at the Heroes Conference. Maybe you can still hold a beautiful woman. But I remind you that most of the women here are not fuel-efficient lights, but don't accidentally fall into the head." Duan Wuya patted his chest. His temperament was full of the old world support. I ignored his teasing, and my mind was still on the woman in the blue skirt. I don't know why, but I always think she is not like an ordinary person, and may even have something to do with some secrets of this Hero Congress. Of course, this is just my direct view, no basis. The first competition began soon, and the first group of competitions had already begun on the ring, with the sword-like shadows, cheers coming one after another. I was assigned to the third group and had some time to watch the battle, so I found a corner to sit down and watch the dispute on the stage quietly. The actual strength of these contestants is quite different. Some are just scheming and are beaten down in a few moves. Some are very skilled and have ruthless moves, which obviously have worked hard. When I arrived at the stage, the audience's eyes flashed over. I took a deep breath, pressed my heart and walked onto the ring slowly. My opponent is a middle-aged man who is making a gun. He is tall and tall, with a cold look. He looks like he is not a good person at first glance. He looked me up and down and sneered, "Little baby, the hair is not strong, and he dares to come to the Heroes to die. See you as soon as possible so as not to lose sight of others." I ignored his pick and just said lightly, "It's useless to say more, let's see the truth under my hands." He hummed, trembled his gun, and grabbed my chest with a shocking move. My side flashed, and the long sword was unsheathed, and the sword light was like a rainbow, approaching his throat in an instant. His face changed and he quickly returned to the gun. Unexpectedly, my sword was just a swaying, and the real killing was in the lower plate. He slapped his knees, causing him to fall to the ground with a stumble. "Borrow." I held my sword and clasped my fists, and my language was calm. The audience was shocked at the moment, and it was obvious that no one thought that my young man could knock down his opponent in 3 or 2 moves. Hansi was full of unwillingness, so he could only retreat in shame. I didn't stop for much, and walked off the ring, without any sense of accomplishment in my heart. This kind of small character is not worth my effort at all. My goal is those big fish hidden in the dark. I successfully followed the next few competitions and successfully advanced to the top 3 in the 3rd group. Duan Wuya did not disappoint anyone. He fucked a pair of iron fists and beat his opponent to the point where he could not help, and successfully entered the next round. After the competition, he ran over to find me happily, and looked proud. "What's the matter, little brother, don't you wrong? With this cooperation, we may be able to cause some big things in the future." I smiled, and was about to say something, but suddenly I felt a chill coming from behind. It was a feeling of being stared at, as if there were 2 eyes locking me tightly. I turned around suddenly, only to see a black shadow flashing across the crowd, disappearing without a trace. "What's wrong? Is the face so hard to see?" Duan Wuya noticed my strangeness and couldn't help asking. "It's nothing, maybe I'm too careful." I snatched my head, but I couldn't completely relieve the anxiety in my heart. The black shadow gave me a very strange feeling, as if I was deliberately trying to find out, and I might even know my true identity. At this time, the woman in blue skirt appeared in my video again. She was still standing by the crowd, her eyes seemed to glance at me, then turned away and disappeared into the crowd. I felt a little nervous and thought she might know something, so I said there's something to Duan Wuya and followed quickly. The terrain of Tianjue Valley is complicated. After several twists, I lost her figure. Just as I was a little disappointed, a low voice suddenly came from the forest beside me. "Young people, don't follow me anymore. There are some things you don't have the qualifications to know." I stopped suddenly and turned around and saw only a masked man standing far away, shaped like a ghost, and a dangerous breath radiated from his body. His eyes were hidden behind the black cloth, and he couldn't see clearly, but there was a teasing in his language. "Who are you?" I held the handle tightly and asked vigilantly. He didn't answer, but just smiled lightly, and then his body flashed and disappeared into the forest. I stood there, my heart beating a little fast, my brain was full of doubts. Is this person an enemy or a friend? Why did he appear here, and why did he warn me? The sky became darker and the sound in the valley became even more slight. I know that the Heroes' Conference just started, and the real stone was waiting for me behind. The night in the valley is like a thick black cloth, making people feel breathless. The wind passes through the mountains, carrying a biting chill, and the sound of the low birds at night occasionally spreads from the trees and forests, which makes people feel hairy. I stood on the forest just now, holding the handle of the sword, and my brain was full of the words left by the masked man before he left. What does it mean to be I don't have the qualifications to know about some things? It makes people feel unhappy when they hear this, as if they are deliberately picking me. But I have to admit that the guy's atmosphere was too strange, and I couldn't even understand his purity. I took a deep breath, squeezed the restlessness in my heart, and turned back. The competition at the bottom of the valley has calmed down. After the first game, most people have dispersed to rest, leaving only a few bonfires to dance in the dark night, reflecting the figures around them. I saw Duan Wuya at a glance. He was sitting by a bonfire, holding a golden-grown wild chicken legs, his mouth full of oil. When he saw me coming back, he grinned and waved to me. "Little brother, where have you gone? Come on, try this handicraft, the roasting method of the Northland, and you still want to eat it." I smiled reluctantly, sat next to him, and took the chicken legs he had come over, without much appetite. The brain was full of the shadows of the masked man and the woman in blue skirt. I always felt that the water of this heroes' association was deeper than I thought. Duan Wuya saw that I was absent-minded, patted my shoulder, and was concerned about his words. "What's wrong? Looking at your expression, it seems like you are having something troublesome. Speaking of it, I will help you participate." I hesitated for a moment, but still didn't tell the whole story, but just said, "It's nothing, I just turned around in the woods. When I met a weird guy, I said a few inexplicable words, which made me feel uncomfortable. Freak? There are so many strange people in the valley this day. Duan Wuya laughed and slapped his hand indifferently. Heroes Association is originally a big mess, and you can meet any monsters. Don't think too much. Our goal is to compete and not to distract those messy things. I clicked my head, and I couldn't let go completely in my heart. Although Duan Wuya is generous, he just knew that I could not hand over all my trump cards to him. The grudge of the gate is too heavy, I have to carry it myself and slowly dig out the truth. It was late at night, the temperature at the bottom of the valley was even lower, and the bonfire was crackling. I wrapped my thin clothes tightly and leaned against the stone. The brain just turned around, and it was all the scene of the family being destroyed that year. That night, fire shone into the sky, and my parents' cry was now engraved in my heart like a knife. I clenched my fists and told myself that no matter how big the hero is, I would rush it and find the mastermind behind the scenes. The next morning, a low horn sound came from the valley, reminding everyone that the second round of the competition was about to begin. Duan Wuya and I packed up our things and came to the ring. We were already gathered. The current level players are half less than yesterday, and the rest are some real skills, and the atmosphere is more intense than in the first game. I glanced around and found that the woman in blue skirt appeared around the crowd again, still indifferent, as if she didn't take anyone seriously. Hey, little brother, are you staring at me again? Duan Wuya came over and talked to me in a low voice. I tell you, this kind of woman is not an ordinary person at first glance. Maybe she is a daughter from a big school. Don't ask for trouble. I glared at him with no gaze. Don't say nonsense, I just think she's a little weird, as if she knows something. What do you know? Who didn't come with some secrets in this hero conference? Duan Wuya was so proud of his reputation, it was nothing serious. But I couldn't be as happy as him, and I always felt that the woman had an indescribable temperament, as if it was related to some undercurrents in this conference. The second round competition began quickly, and this time there were two matches. The winner went directly to the next round, and the loser was eliminated. My opponent is a powerful knife, with a large move that is very powerful, but the speed is a little slower. I didn't have much energy, so I found his tricks in just a few tricks, and took off his big knife, forcing him to recognize it. There was another shock in the audience. I heard someone whispering, saying that my young man's magic tricks were not simple this year, and it was probably a big deal. I felt nervous and didn't hear the decoration on my face, so I walked off the stage silently. Duan Wuya was also overjoyed. As soon as he came on stage, he fought head-on with his opponent. The Iron Fist made the other party retreat. Finally, he directly flew out of the ring and received a lot of applause. After he came down, he ran over to me and said, "Little brother, we are so good. After a few more rounds, I may really be able to kill you and make you famous. It doesn't matter if you have a name, it's important to be able to understand the details of this conference." I said in a low voice, and my eyes swept to other competitions on the stage. Among these players, there are several people who are very cruel in their moves, as if they are practicing for killing others, and they don't look like decent characters at all. I had a sense of premonition in my heart that behind this hero congress, there were absolutely nothing clean hidden. The competition was held until noon, and something suddenly went out. During the battle, a young slinger was hit in the chest by his opponent. He vomited blood and fell to the ground, but it was almost impossible. Logically speaking, the test was not allowed to be a dead end, but the person who took the action sneered and had no regrets. The arguments in the audience burst out at the same time. Some people blame him for being a man of the devil, and some people say that this is the common destiny of the heroes. They are strong and powerful, and they can live even if they die. I looked at this scene with my eyebrows, and my heart became more and more uneasy. Just as everyone was discussing, a figure suddenly walked out of the crowd and came to the side of the young squire that year. It was the woman in blue skirt. She squatted down, put her fingers on the other party's door, then took out a small porcelain bottle from her waist, poured out a few pills and stuffed them into his mouth. Her movements were very fast, and after a while, the slayer's face became a little calmer. Although she was not awake, she at least saved her life. Everyone in the audience was stunned. Someone said in a low voice, "This woman is so terrible. She is so skillful in medicine. How could she be from the Prince of Medicine Valley?" I felt that the Valley of the Prince of Medicine is a mysterious sect in Jiuxiao. They said that they are not only medical, but also good at using poison and hidden weapons for a long time. No one in the world dares to provoke them easily. If this woman is really from the Valley of Medicine, then her experience will not be simple. I couldn't help but look at her a few more times, and I found that after she had dealt with the injured person, she looked over the crowd, as if she was looking for someone. Finally, her vision fell on me, stayed for a moment, and then turned on as if nothing had happened. This glance made my heart skip, and I couldn't tell if she recognized me. Or, she also felt that I was observing her. No matter what, I decided to find an opportunity to contact her, saying that I might be able to dig out some useful information from her. After the competition, I made an excuse to remove Duan Wuya and followed the woman quietly. She did not seem to be planning to return to the camp, but walked towards a remote path in the valley. I lowered my feet and kept my distance so that I could not be discovered by her. There were dense forests on both sides of the path, and there was a tidal smell in the air. After walking for a while, she suddenly stopped walking, turned around, and said coldly, "Are you not tired after following you for so long?" I was shocked, and I didn't expect that she would still find out. Since I couldn't hide, I simply walked out and clasped my fists and said, "I just saw the girl's skillful medical skills just now. I really admire her, so I want to know her, but there is nothing different." She looked me up and down, her language was still cold. "Acquaintance? There are so many people in the heroes who want to get close to each other, and I'm not interested. You'd better not follow me again, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." After saying that, she turned around and left without any chance to reply to me. I looked at her back, and there was a bit of pain in my mouth, but I couldn't force it. After all, people's attitude was there, and if I continue to complain, it will only make people disgusted. But I still couldn't let it go in my heart. I always thought that she knew something, and it might even have something to do with my grudge. In the next few days, the competition was conducted one round after another, and more people were eliminated, and the rest were tough guys. Duan Wuya and I both advanced smoothly, but I also began to notice some uneven things. For example, some players are obviously very capable, but they deliberately lose and compete, as if they are deliberately hiding something. There were several more times when I felt the chill of being watched during the competition, but every time I turned around, I couldn't find a suspicious figure. What made me most uneasy was that the masked man appeared again. That night, I went to the valley to practice Storm alone. When I just collected the call, I heard a smile coming from behind. "Young people, I have made a lot of progress, but unfortunately, I am still too young." I turned around suddenly, and it was indeed the masked man again. He stood on the treetops that were not far away, his body was blurred under the moonlight, like a ghost. I held the longsword tightly and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why do you always follow me?" He didn't answer directly, but just hummed lightly, "Follow you? Ah, you think too much of yourself. I just passed by and reminded you that the water in this hero association is very deep, and some people and some things are not something you can touch. Be careful, don't play yourself in." After saying that, he flashed his body and disappeared without a trace. I stood there, my teeth were so angry that I couldn't help but feel bad about him. This guy always said that he kept half of it, as if he was deliberately trying to suck my appetite, but I had to admit that he said it was right, and this would be really not simple. As the competition entered the second half, the atmosphere in the valley became more and more strange. Some people missed at night, some were injured for no reason, and even said that something was not clean hidden deep in the valley of the sky, sucking people's essence and blood. These words sound like nonsense, but when I think of the strange things I encountered, I have a bad feeling in my heart. That night, after the competition was over, Duan Wuya and I sat by the bonfire and chatted. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, "Little brother, I'll tell you something. Today I heard a few old people chatting about this hero conference, saying that behind this hero conference, There may be a big man who is fighting, and the results of the competition are all defined. Do you think this is a bit evil? My heart was shocked, and my face was calm. Default? Are there any evidence? There is no evidence. They said that the champions of the Heroes Conference over the years have the same shadow behind them. The man seems to be called the Blood Blade Venerable, heard a cruel and ruthless demon, and no one in the martial arts world dared to mess with him. Duan Weia said this, and his voice was even lower. I guess this conference might be his game, which is specially used for fish. The Blood Blade Venerable. This name hit my brain like a ray of lightning, making me sit up straight in an instant. The mastermind behind the scenes who slaughtered me that year said it was related to this name. Although I have never seen it with my own eyes, the words Blood Blade that my father left before his death mentioned. I strongly suppressed the excitement in my heart and asked Duan Weia, what else do you know about this person? I don't know much, but I just heard it. Duan Weia snatched his head. But I heard that this guy is very powerful. He was already a major victim of the martial arts world 10 years ago. But he rarely appeared in the past few years. Some people said he was hiding, and some people said he was planning something big move in secret. Are you asking this? Can you hear this name too? I shook my head and said perfunctorily, it's nothing, I'm just curious. This kind of character sounds quite scary. Duan Weia didn't think much about it and laughed. It's amazing to be scary. We are probably not able to catch our eyes on such a small character. You should still try it carefully, don't think about any of these. I felt like I was overturning in my heart. If the Blood Blade Venerable is really the mastermind behind the Heroes Congress, then my purpose in coming this way may be even more dangerous than I thought. But no matter what, I have to keep trying. Even if there's a sea of swords and fire in front of me, I have to report this revenge alone. The night became deeper, and the bonfire was silenced. I lay on the ground, looking at the stars in the sky, and silently counting the next way in my heart. The trial has not ended, and the real storm has not come yet, but I can already hear the bloody smell in the air. Tianjue Valley, this place is indeed not a good place. The next day, the competition continued, and Duan Weia and I entered the top 10, getting closer and closer to the finals. But I found that the woman in the blue skirt suddenly disappeared, as if it was evaporated from the human body. I felt a little uneasy, and I always felt that her disappearance could not be separated from some secrets of this conference. And the masked man never appeared again, but I could always feel an invisible pressure, like a net, slowly retracting towards me. After the competition this day, I walked to a cliff beside the valley, looking far away at the clouds at the foot of the mountain, and trying to figure out the lines in my brain. At this moment, a slight sound of footsteps came from behind me, and I turned around suddenly and saw a familiar figure, the woman in blue skirt. She stood nowhere, and the thin slut on her face had been taken off, revealing a cool and beautiful face. She looked at me, her voice calmly with a warning, Lin Xiaoran, who are you? Why do you always follow me? I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect that she would take the initiative to come to the door. Since she opened her mouth, I didn't intend to hide it, so I simply said, I'm not mad. I just think you're not like an ordinary person, maybe because I'm looking for some answers, thinking you might know something. She was silent for a while, her eyes seemed to be able to see through my heart, and after a while, she said, Answer? The answer to the Heroes Conference is not something that anyone can bear. Let me tell you, don't dig it up anymore. Some truth, if you know it, you will only cause you to be robbed. After saying that, she turned around and left me alone, leaving me alone in place, and asked her. Her words were like a warning from the masked man, but the more I felt, the more curiosity and unwilling I felt in my heart. I know that the next path will only be even more difficult, but I have no way out. The wind of the Sky Valley was getting colder. I held the long sword tighter on my waist, looked at her back, and made up my mind secretly, no matter what was ahead, I had to walk on until all the truth was dug out. The wind in the Sky Valley became colder and colder, like a knife scraping on my face. I stood on the cliff, looking at the direction where Mu Qingyan disappeared, and my heart seemed to be pressing down on a large stone. The last sentence she kept replying in her brain, some truth, if you know it, you will only let you get rid of it. This makes people feel cold and anxious as I have come to this point, so where can I still have a way out? Revenge is my life, and digging out the truth is my only way. Even if there's a gang in front of me, I have to keep on sternly. I took a deep breath and turned back to the campground at the bottom of the valley. The sky was already dark, and the bonfires far away were swaying. Duan Wuyao was still waiting for me there. When he saw me coming back, he grinned and passed a piece of roasted rabbit meat. "Little brother, where did you go? Why is your face so hard to see? It seems like you have seen a ghost." I took the rabbit meat, smiled reluctantly, and said, "It's nothing, I just went to the valley and turned around, blowing a little cold wind, and I felt a little sad." Ha, this hero conference is about to be finalized, you have to cheer up. If we can kill the top 3, we may become famous and can't even make a chance for many people. Duan Wenya patted his chest and was full of joy, but I didn't have the pleasure of him. Fame and fortune are nothing to me. I just want to find the Blood Blade Venerable and use this sword to pierce his heart. I lowered my head and nibbled the rabbit meat, but didn't answer him. My brain was full of warnings from Mu Qingyan and the masked man. The water in the Heroes Conference is too deep. Even they say so, how big is the rumor behind it? Can I really end up being alone? But when I think of my parents' prejudice before my death, the fire in my heart became even stronger. No matter how difficult it was, I had to try it. In the next few days, the competition became more and more intense, and everyone who entered the competition circle was tough. Duan Wuya and I gritted our teeth and rushed down, but I always felt that the atmosphere around us became less and less uneven. There were some strange sounds coming from the valley, like a roar or a crying sound. There were still a few players at night who were missing inexplicably, and even a shadow could not be found. Some people say it was fucked by wild animals in the mountains, but I knew in my heart that what was hidden in the valley this day was definitely not a wild animal. On the eve of the game, I sat alone on the side of the camp, wiping the long sword around my waist. The blade was shining with cold light under the moonlight, as if reminding me of tomorrow's bloody battle. Duan Wuya came over and his language was a little more serious than usual. "Brother, tomorrow is the last battle. I heard that there is no limit to life and death in the game. No one can intervene before the stage is divided. You have to be careful. I always think there is someone behind this conference." I clicked my head and said in a low voice, "I know, you should be careful too. We have offended many people to get to this point, and maybe someone will do something behind the scenes." Duan Wuya hummed and clenched his fists tightly. "Get a bad hand? This is the one I am most afraid of. Whoever dares to come, I will smash his brain with one punch," he said proudly, but I couldn't laugh. The name of Blood Blade Venerable is like a shadow that has always been pressing on my heart. I know that the real storm will come tomorrow. On the day of the game, the clouds were densely covered with clouds over the Tianjue Valley, as if God knew that something big would happen. The ring was filled with people, and a pressure was filled with air. I stood in the audience and glanced at the other contestants, and found that Mu Qingyan was among them. She still looked cold and cold. When her eyes swept past me, she stayed for a moment, and then turned back. My heart moved. Could she decide too? But she hadn't shown up before, so why did she suddenly kill her? The competition started quickly, and the first scene was when I met a guy who used a double knife. His moves were ruthless, and the sword light was covering him like a net, but I didn't give him too many opportunities. I just found a few tricks and stabbed him in the shoulder, forcing him to recognize him. There was a thunderous sound in the audience, but I didn't feel like hearing these. My eyes were always on Mu Qingyan. When she came on the scene, her opponent was a tall gunner, but she didn't use weapons at all. She just let out a light hand. After a few cold light flashed, the gunner fell down with his neck covering his neck, and he didn't even hum. I was amazed at the sight of this woman's hidden weapon skills, so I couldn't even see how she took action. The people in the audience also exploded. Some shouted the poisonous spear of the king of Medicine Valley, and some said that she was a person in the devil's way, but she seemed to have never heard of it and walked off the stage silently, without even looking at the falling opponent. Duanwuya's competition was also smooth. As soon as he came on stage, he fought head-on with his opponent. The iron fist made the other party's face full of blood. In the end, he directly flew out of the ring and received a lot of applause. When the competition was held until the evening, there were only 3 of us left, me, Duanwuya, and Mu Qingyan. At this moment, the atmosphere on the ring suddenly changed. A low voice came from the deep valley, as if it was rising from the ground, carrying a creepy chill. Heroes, congratulations on getting to this point. The real trial of the Heroes Conference has only begun now. I raised my head suddenly, looked at it with the sound, and saw a man in black robe walking out of the valley, with a heavy bloody atmosphere scattering on his body. His face was hidden under his hood, and he couldn't see his true appearance clearly, but the aura made everyone on the scene unable to help but take a step back. Duanwuya snorted, "Who is this guy? How do you feel like this evil door?" I didn't answer. I held the handle tightly, and my heart beat fast. Although I have never seen the Blood Blade Venerable, the breath that radiates from this man is exactly the same as the magic head who killed the door in my memory back then. Could it be that he is the enemy I have found for so many years? The man in black robe walked to the center of the ring, lifted his hood, revealing a face full of scars, and his eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake. He grinned and said, "I am the master of the heroes. You can go to this point and prove that you are qualified to see the true secret. The deep valley of the sky is hidden in the sky, and those who get it can dominate the martial arts world. But if you want to get it, you have to change it with your life. Do you dare to take this game?" Everyone in the audience was stunned, some were surprised, some were discussing, but more people's eyes ignited a greedy light. Jiuxiao chart, this name has been passed on the world for too long, who doesn't want it? I was not confused by this and was stunned. I stared at the Blood Blade Venerable and gritted my teeth and asked, "Did you fuck the Lin family door that year?" My voice was not loud, but in this quiet valley, it was as clear as thunderbolt. The Blood Blade Master turned his head and looked at me, with a flash of fun in his eyes, and then he laughed, "Lin family? Oh, I remembered that 10 years ago, there was an illegitimate small party who dared to harm me, so I snatched them. Why, you are the fish that missed the net." This pierced into my heart like a knife. My body shook, and my hand holding the sword veins swelled up, almost rushing up. But I suppressed my anger and said coldly, "Okay, very good. Today, I will use your blood to sacrifice to the dead souls of my Lin family." The Blood Blade Venerable seemed to have heard a joke and slapped his hand indifferently, "Little baby, you deserve it. But, since you want to die so much, I will fulfill you. Come on, go deep into the Valley of Heaven, let's see who can walk out alive." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards a deep mountain road in the valley, and his body was filled with a suffocating power. The people in the audience were all in love, but in the end, some people couldn't help but follow. Duanwuya patted my shoulder and said in a low voice, "Little brother, this matter is not simple, but since you have a grudge, I will accompany you for a walk." I clicked a little, looked over Mu Qingyan, and found that she was also looking at me. Her eyes were complicated, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end she followed the team silently. The 3 of us, with different purposes, stepped into the deepest part of the valley. The mountain road is getting narrower and narrower, and the cliffs on both sides are like giant beasts' mouths, which can swallow people at any time. There was a fishy smell in the air, like a rotten body, or like a certain taboo power. After walking for most of the time, the front suddenly opened up and a huge stone cave appeared. The entrance was full of ancient runes and faint blue light was emitting. The Blood Blade Venerable stood at the entrance of the cave, turned around and looked at us, grinning. "The Jiuxiao diagram is right inside, but it is sealed by a forbidden seal, and it must be opened with blood and life. Who do you want to make this first sacrifice?" His words changed the faces of everyone present. Some people wanted to retreat, but suddenly a few black shadows appeared behind the Blood Blade Venerable. One was extraordinary, and it was his minions that blocked the retreat. I clenched my teeth and knew that I would not be able to fight today, so I stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "Blood Blade Old Master, stop talking about it. I'm going to make your life today." He sneered, and with a swept his hand, several black shadows came up, with fierce moves, as if they were practicing for killing others. I fought on my shoulders with Duan Wenyao and Lu Guang in iron fisting, barely holding on to the first wave of attack. But these people are really too strong, and each move is filled with a sensation. A bloody mouth is quickly drawn on my arm, which hurts sharply. Mu Qingyan also joined the battle at this time. Her hidden weapon flew out like a raindrop, and each hit was extremely accurate, helping us relieve a lot of pressure. But the Blood Blade Venerable was standing by the side, looking coldly, as if he didn't take us seriously at all. After a while, I finally found a gap and stabbed him in the chest, but he just slapped his body lightly and slapped it with his palm. My whole body was shocked and smashed to the ground, and my inner body seemed to be about to break. With this ability, can you dare to take revenge? The Blood Blade Master walked over with a sneer, slowly walking with invisible pressure. Little baby, I'll send you to see your parents. Just as he raised his hand, Mu Qingyan suddenly rushed in front of me, and with a flash of his hand, a cold light shot straight into the eyes of the Blood Blade Venerable. He leaned slightly and avoided the hidden weapon, but in this moment, Duan Weiyao grabbed the opportunity and punched him in the back. The Blood Blade Master hummed and finally showed anger. He slapped Duan Weiyao with his backhand, smashed him into the stone wall, and spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Qinger, thank you. I gritted my teeth and stood up, wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, held the long sword tightly, and prepared to fight for the last one. But Mu Qingyan slammed his head and said in a low voice, "Don't urge, his strength is not something you can deal with. The ban on Jiuxiao diagram must be broken by someone's life." I'll come. I was stunned. Without reacting, she had already rushed towards the entrance of the cave, her fingers quickly sealed, and she recited some mantras that she couldn't understand. The blue light at the entrance of the cave suddenly flourished, as if it had come alive, and rolled towards her. Her face turned pale and blood was overflowing from the corners of her mouth, but she didn't stop and forced herself to complete the last handprint. "Qingyan! Stop!" I shouted and rushed over, but it was too late. The blue light suddenly exploded, the restriction was broken, and a low bird came from the hole, as if something had been awakened. Mu Qingyan's body fell softly, and I hugged her and found that her breath was so weak that she could hardly feel it. Why do you want this?" My voice was trembling, and my brain was blank. She opened her eyes tightly and said with a gaze, "My brother died under this ban that year. I came here, just to break it. Don't let the Blood Blade succeed." Before she could finish her words, her hands drooped weakly. I hugged her body, my eyes hurt sorely, and my heart seemed to be hollowed out. But I was not in a state of grief. The Blood Blade Venerable had already walked into the cave, and he still sneered in his mouth, "No, the restriction is broken, the Jiuxiao sword is mine. You guys are here to die." I bit my teeth tightly, put down Mu Qing's neck, and lifted my sword into the hole. Duan Weiyao also got up, followed me, and roared, "Little brother, fight. If this old man doesn't die, we will all be done." The space in the cave is huge, and an ancient stone figure floats in the center, with dense marks on it, scattering a chilling breath. The Blood Blade Venerable stood in front of the stone figure, stamped with both hands, and tried to awaken its power. But I didn't give him a chance. A sword stabbed into his heart, and the sword was like a rainbow, carrying all my anger and hatred. He turned around suddenly, his palm slapped, and his breath was shaken away, but I also took advantage of the opportunity to approach, and several consecutive blades forced him to retreat. Duan Weiyao also rushed up at this time, and punched his fist to his side, cooperating with my attack, making it difficult for him to resist. But his strength was really too strong. After a few moves, he slapped my chest with a palm, and I flew out and smashed it on the stone wall, almost without a break. A piercing is a piercing. No matter how much you pierce it, it will be useless. The Blood Blade Venerable snorted coldly, turned around and continued to wake up the stone map. The light on the stone map became more and more powerful, and a breath of destruction was filled with the air. I knew that if he succeeded, he would not be able to take revenge, and he would destroy the entire martial arts world. I gritted my teeth and stood up, and suddenly I flashed the last move my father taught me, the sword Jiuxiao. This trick is the essence of my Lin family sword technique. It is extremely powerful and can burn your own essence and blood, and may even take your life. But now, I no longer have any choice. Blood Blade Old Master, die! I growled, and the long sword was tall and violently swept. The sword's body shone with dazzling light, as if it was about to tear the entire cave. The Blood Blade Venerable finally changed his face and turned around to stop him, but it was too late. I took a swipe and the sound of a dragon was as angry as a dragon, holding the deafening bird, which directly hit his chest. Swordsman's Nine Sky. This move exhausted all my energy. When the sword light passed, the Blood Blade's protective body was torn open, and a bloody fog exploded from his chest. The whole person was swept, smashed into the stone wall, and let out a scream. At the same time, the Jiuxiao sword was affected by the drama, and the light suddenly exploded, as if it had lost control. The entire cave began to shake violently, and the stone blocks kept falling. Go away! This place is going to collapse. Duanwuya roared and rushed over, holding me who was about to slap me, and running towards the entrance of the cave. But I pulled him away, walked to Mu Qingyan, picked up her body, gritted my teeth and said, I can't put her down. Duanwuya said something, but he still helped me carry her and ran out. The cave behind him collapsed, and the soil and gravel had no more flooding, and even the Blood Blade Venerable's cry was covered. I don't know if he is really dead, but I have done everything in that drama. Even if he is still alive, he will never be able to make waves anymore. We finally escaped from the deep valley, and the shock in the valley became stronger and stronger, and the entire mountain seemed to collapse. Other martial arts people who came in had already fled in scattered areas, and the scene was in chaos. I hugged Mu Qingyan, leaned against Duanwuya, and walked out of the valley. Every step was like stepping on the tip of a knife. Finally, at dawn, we climbed up to the entrance of the valley. Looking far away, the entire Tianjue Valley had turned into a ruin, with smoke rolling like nothing was left. I sat on the big rock at the entrance of the valley, looking down at Mu Qingyan in the morning. Her face was clear, as if she was asleep, but I knew that she could never wake up again. Duanwuya sat next to me, covered in blood, but still grinned. Little brother, we have survived. Should you report your grudge, right? I clicked the head, and my throat seemed to be blocked, so I couldn't say anything. The revenge is reported, but the price of this generation is really too big. I looked down at the long sword around my waist, and the blade was filled with gaps, as if I was complaining about the fierceness of this battle. Duanwuya patted my shoulder and said in a low voice, What are you going to do next? I was silent for a while, looking at the Yunnan mountains far away, and said lightly, I'm tired. Find a place where there are no people and stay calm. The place in the Jianghu is so fishy and bloody, I don't want to touch it again. Duanwuya was a little bit late and didn't care about me anymore, just said, okay, let's not go there. If you figure it out one day and come to me in the north, you will always have a bowl of wine in the iron boxing gate. I smiled, clasped my fists and bid him goodbye, then picked up Mu Qingyan and walked towards the bottom of the mountain. The truth of the Heroes' Conference, with the collapse of the Tianjue Valley, spread throughout the Jiuzhou mainland. The ambition of the Blood Blade Venerable and the secret of the Jiuxiao diagram have also become a story in the world. But to me, these are not important. I just want to find a peaceful place to bury the past and bury this scar. The wind of the mountain blew over and brought a clear sky, and I staggered without stopping. The road is still long and the story is not over yet, but at least now, I can take a breath.